Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Charts with Dan. We're at the end of Super Bowl weekend. That is traditionally not the best weekend at the box office, but it actually wasn't too bad, all things considered. Let's jump right into the box office top 10 for this past weekend. And for the second week in a row, Sam Raimi's new film, Send Help, was the number one movie in the country with just over $9 million. That's a 52.6% drop from its premiere week. Considering that Send Help is a horror film and it's Super Bowl weekend, that's actually not a terrible result. Its domestic total now is at just under $35 million. And I got a few comments last week saying that they wish that I had gone deeper into Sam Raimi openings, etc., because he is such, in many circles, a beloved director, certainly a director that's been doing this for many years. I just had so much to get to last week. But let's do a bit of a deep dive into Sam Raimi's filmography. Let's look at his top films at the domestic box office. And there are really two Sam Raimis. There's Big Sam Raimi and there's Little Sam Raimi. His top 5 films are all Big Sam Raimi. We have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at $411 million. Then the 3 Spider-Man films that he directed, starting with the first Spider-Man at just over $400 million, Spider-Man 2 at $375.8 million, and Spider-Man 3 at $338 million. And then we have Oz the Great and Powerful. This movie made $234 million back in, I think it was 2013, and yet it's a movie that, I mean, I even saw it, and I can barely remember it. And then we have Little Sam Raimi with Drag Me to Hell at number 6 with $42 million. His baseball film For Love of the Game, which even I'd forgotten he directed, at $35.1 million. Send Help is currently Sam Raimi's 8th highest grossing film domestically, followed by Darkman and The Quick and the Dead at number 10. But as I mentioned, this guy has been at it for decades now. So let's look at his top 10 highest grossing films domestically when you adjust for inflation. And that puts the first Spider-Man film way up top at $774.7 million adjusted, with Spider-Man 2 coming in at $660.9 million and Spider-Man 3 coming in at $535.2 million. It's crazy to think that that was considered to be, in some circles, a disappointing performance when that film was released. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is in 4th place, and then we have Oz the Great and Powerful. So his blockbuster films still in the top 5. Darkman, adjusted for inflation, comes in 6th place at $81.6 million, followed by For Love of the Game at $76.5 million. Drag Me to Hell's at number 8 at $64.1 million. The Quick and the Dead comes in 9th place at $39.4 million. And A Simple Plan is currently at number 10. That was an Oscar-nominated film at $37.3 million, though Send Help should break into this adjusted top 10 very shortly. In 2nd place this past weekend was the latest film from Angel Studios starring Kevin James called Solo Mio. It opened at just over $7 million. In 3rd place was Markiplier's film Iron Lung. It dropped 63.1%, which was actually a softer fall than a lot of the industry trades had projected. It still brought in $6.7 million for a $31.5 million total so far this year. And on last week's show, I asked the members here on the channel what YouTuber they wanted to see make a movie next. Now, I discounted myself from this competition, and we got several different answers. At number 1 was Ryan George from Pitch Meeting with 25 votes, and that was mainly because people wanted to see him doing a pitch meeting with himself about a movie that he made. That's like Inception there. Patrick H. Willems comes in 2nd place with 19 votes. Then with 11 votes, we had CinemaSins, and specifically the person who left the original comment said they wanted to see CinemaSins put their money where their mouth is and make a movie of their own. I certainly heard that many times as a writer at Honest Trailers. Dead Meat came in with 9 votes. I love their videos. And then with 8 votes, we had Kurzgesagt. I may not be pronouncing that correctly. That's an animation channel on YouTube. And then my old buddy Spencer Gilbert. People said they wanted to see him write a movie, so he ties for that 5th spot with 8 votes. I actually texted Spencer today and told him that he was one of the top 5 vote getters, and he said, and I quote, "It's an honor just to be nominated." So there you go. We will get to this week's member poll question later on in the show. If you're not a member, I'd love for you to join. You can vote in these member poll questions every single week. You also get exclusive early access to some of my videos, so come on, join the club. In fourth place, K-pop is not just dominating on Netflix. There was a K-pop band that also had a great weekend at the box office. Stray Kids, the Dominate Experience, came in at $5.6 million. Dracula from director Luc Besson came in fifth place at $4.5 million. Then in sixth place, we had Zootopia 2 in its 11th week with a 32.4% drop, just over $4 million at the box office. Its domestic total is now at $414.5 million, and it's been a minute since we checked this graphic. These are the highest grossing Disney animation films domestically if you do not take inflation into account. And Zootopia 2 is now the fourth highest grossing film ever from Disney Animation. And remember, this is Disney Animation proper. It does not include things like Pixar and the live action or animated or whatever you want to call it Lion King remake. This is strictly Disney Animation films. And it's sneaking up on the unadjusted total of The Lion King for number 3 on this list. And if it does catch The Lion King, that means it is also very close to being the highest grossing film domestically released in 2025. We've been looking at this chart for the past few weeks. It is continuing to sneak up on a Minecraft movie to see if it can become the number one 2025 movie. This is the chart we've been looking at for the last few weeks, and you can see that that gap continues to close between Zootopia 2 and a Minecraft movie. Again, I'm including Avatar 3 there just to show you how important legs can be, because Avatar Fire and Ash is way out of this race. But I wanted to zoom in a little bit between just Minecraft and Zootopia 2 to show you how Zootopia 2 has been closing this gap. So this is the last 15 days of daily box office cumulative grosses between these two movies. And that's not a data entry error when you look at a Minecraft movie where it's basically just a flat line. That's because at this point in its release cycle, Minecraft is basically done. We were into the summer movie season. It wasn't collecting much money daily. And that's what's allowing Zootopia 2, which you can see down at the bottom, to continue to close this gap, because it has not yet slowed down to that degree at the box office, although it is starting to hit the digital market. It'll be on physical media soon. I'm sure they'll announce a Disney Plus streaming date. So the question remains, will Zootopia 2 be able to hang around long enough to catch a Minecraft movie? It certainly has the momentum, but as I've been saying, I think that it is going to be a very, very close race between these two movies. In seventh place this past weekend was The Strangers Chapter 3, which opened to $3.47 million. And when you look at the Strangers franchise, if you'll recall when the John Wick movies were coming out, I said that it was a stair-step franchise in that each entry opened higher than the last. So it was like climbing up a set of stairs. Well, the Strangers franchise has been like falling down a set of stairs, because these are the domestic openings for each film in the franchise. Here you have the first one, The Strangers, at $20.9 million. Now, The Strangers Chapter 1 actually did open a little bit higher than The Strangers Prey at Night, though I think if you adjusted these for inflation, those two would probably switch places, but they are on about even footing. And then we saw a drop between Strangers Chapter 1 and Strangers Chapter 2, and then another drop between Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. The truth of the matter is those movies were made at basically the same time, so we knew that Chapter 3 was going to be coming out in theaters, but this has not been a popular trilogy of Strangers films. Audience-wise, critically, the cinema score for The Strangers Chapter 3 was very bad. So I guess I admire the ambition to make 3 Strangers films at once and to commit on yearly theatrical releases for each of them, but I don't necessarily think if this was something that worked out very well for the studio. In 8th place, we have Avatar Fire and Ash in its 8th week with another $3.47 million. It's trying to get to that $400 million mark domestically. And this was a graphic that we looked at back before Avatar Fire and Ash opened, or right around the time that it opened. When we talk about James Cameron's legs at the domestic box office, basically when you look at the domestic gross, how many times the opening weekend is that domestic gross? Now, Avatar Fire and Ash is currently at 4.39 times its opening weekend. That means to get to 5 times its opening weekend, it would have to get to about $445 million domestically. That's not going to happen, which means that this is actually going to be the first movie in James Cameron's career as a director, if you don't count Piranha 2, which I don't think even he counts, that one of his films didn't make at least 5 times its opening opening weekend. Now, it'll be pretty close to 5 times, but it won't get to that 5x multiplier, which I'm sure some people will use as a doom and gloom to say that no more Avatar movies should be made. I think what this just shows is that Avatar is now operating a little bit more like a normal movie, although any other movie would probably kill to make 4+ times its opening weekend. But still, a first for James Cameron in a very, very long-lived and prestigious career. In 9th place, we had Jason Statham's latest film, Shelter, with $2.47 million, and then the documentary Melania had the steepest drop in the top 10 at 67.2%, but still good enough to claim that number 10 spot at $2.35 million. Dropping out of the top 10 this week, we have Marty Supreme and The Housemaid, 2 holiday releases, both out after 7 weeks. 28 years later, The Bone Temple, out after 3 weeks. Just no box office comeback for this film. And Mercy, which is out after 2 weeks. And I want to talk a bit about Marty Supreme because it's now out of the top 10. We've spoken about the fact that it is now the highest grossing A24 release domestically of all time at $93.2 million. It is still trying to become the first A24 film to gross $100 million. It took that title away from Everything Everywhere All at Once, but it is now, according to box office reports, the highest grossing A24 release of all time worldwide at an estimated $147 million globally, also taking that title away from Everything Everywhere All at Once. Then we have Civil War and Materialist, the only other A24 films to gross over $100 million worldwide, and I think Materialist would be the biggest hit out of all those because it had the smallest budget of any of those films. Talk to Me is at number 5 at $92.2 million. A lot of people surprised that that movie did as well as it did. Hereditary is in 6th place, followed by Lady Bird, Moonlight, Baby Girl, and Heretic. Of course, the asterisk on Marty Supreme is that it is a higher budgeted film than any of these other ones, I think, including even Civil War. But it is still performing well, especially for an A24 film, and especially for one that you might not expect to be doing these kinds of numbers, and it will continue to add to its total now as the highest grossing film in A24 history, both here and around the world. Looking at the biggest theater count changes for this past weekend, Return to Silent Hill lost almost all of its theaters, 1,335 of them. It's now in just 273. 28 years later, The Bone Temple lost the majority of its theaters, 1,257. It's now in 785. Mercy lost 966 theaters. It's now in 2,502. Primate has fallen out of wide release. It lost 853 theaters. It's now in 372. And Marty Supreme shed a good chunk of its theaters. It lost 579. It's still in 1,124. This is the 2026 versus 2025 box office weekend by weekend. And even though this was Super Bowl weekend, again, traditionally not the biggest weekend at the domestic box office, this year was still up over last year. We were up 13.5% over last year's Super Bowl weekend. Last year, Dogman repeated at number 1. So we continue to have a bit of a rebound year thus far at the box office. Not in a huge way, but I think in a significant way. Our year-to-date box office now is at $726 million. And that brings us to our trivia question. And putting this together, I started thinking I may have actually asked this question before. If I did and you're a loyal viewer of the show, that means you should just be able to get it easily. The Super Bowl, not always a huge movie-going weekend, but what is the highest grossing film ever at the domestic box office on Super Bowl weekend? It was a movie that opened on Super Bowl weekend, and you could perhaps say that it was counter-programming or could be considered counter-programming. I'll give you a minute to think about it or maybe even remember the answer if I've asked this question before. And the answer is Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus, the Best of Both Worlds concert back in 2008. It was credited as a limited event. It opened on Super Bowl weekend, and it made $31.1 million. That's the biggest gross ever for a movie on the same weekend as the Super Bowl. American Sniper was up there as one of the highest grossing films, but Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus take the crown. This upcoming weekend, we're looking at a potential pop at the box office with a number of releases, but most notably Wuthering Heights from director Emerald Fennell, starring Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. And really the selling point of this movie is that this is going to be the sexy version of this classic novel. And that brings me to the member poll question for this week. What classic novel would you like to see get the sexy treatment next? Maybe ironically, maybe because you just want to see something that you read in English class sexed up. Let me know right now in the member poll. It should be live for you to leave your comments. If you see your answer there already, upvote that answer instead of leaving it twice. It helps me to calculate those results, and I will reveal those results on next week's Charts with Dan. We've got so much more to get to today, but before we do, I want to thank the sponsors for this week's episode. This video is brought to you by Mando. If you're like most people, when you leave the house, you make sure you look good, you make sure you feel good, but that doesn't mean anything if you don't smell good. Well, with Mando, you can scratch that worry off your list because Mando's whole body deodorant stops odor before it even starts. Mando is safe to use anywhere on your body and blocks odor all day with odor control up to 72 hours, and it's clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. Mando's deodorants come in stick and spray forms, and you can choose from a variety of scents like bourbon leather or my personal favorite, Mount Fuji. When I was in Utah going to movie screenings all day, I was out of my hotel room sometimes for 12, 14 hours straight, running from movie to movie, and then sitting in these kind of cramped little seats next to a bunch of strangers. But no matter how long I was gone, I was never worried about how I smelled because I trust Mando every single day to keep me smelling good. Some men mask their BO with scents. Mando men get the job done right. Don't mask it, Mando it. Mando's available right now in retailers near you, or you can head to shopmando.com because for a limited time, new customers get 20% off site-wide with my exclusive code. Use code DAN at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support the show and tell them that I sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and say hello to long-lasting freshness. This video is brought to you by AG1. It's February, and how are those New Year's resolutions looking? If you've already dropped some of them due to lack of motivation, it's time to try something that's easy to stick with AG1. A lot of supplements make it hard to stick to a regimen with a bunch of different pills that you have to take at different times of the day, but with AG1 it's easy. You get a multivitamin, antioxidant, superfoods, and pre- and probiotics all in one scoop. I have spent a lot of time away from home recently, and AG1 made it so easy when I went to Park City, for example, to make sure that I stuck to taking AG1 every single day with their travel packs, which were very convenient for me to just throw in my bag. 20 seconds, one scoop, 8 ounces of water, and I was done for the day. I'm also a fan of AG1's newer flavors, especially berry and tropical. Being able to mix up those flavors also helps make sure that not only is drinking AG1 every day easy, it also stays fresh. AG1 has over 50,000 5-star reviews and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time only, go to drinkag1.com/Dan Murrell to get a free AG1 flavor sampler and AGZ sampler to try all of the flavors, plus free vitamin D3 and K2 and an AG1 welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription order. This is a limited time offer, only available while supplies last, so get it in now. That's drinkag1.com/Dan Murrell, drinkag1.com/Dan Murrell. All right, let's turn our attention now from the domestic box office to the international box office, meaning all markets outside of the United States and Canada. And the number one film internationally was actually The Housemaid. At $16.39 million, it's been doing very well around the world. It dropped just 10.4% internationally from last week. Stray Kids, The Dominate Experience, comes in second place at $13.475 million. Then we have Zootopia 2 dropping 26% with $12.8 million. Avatar Fire and Ash falls to fourth place at $12.2 million with a 36.8% drop. And then in fifth place was Marsupilami, which is a French film. I watched the trailer. It looks like maybe like the French version of a Lilo and Stitch type story. It brought in just over $8 million. When you take those international grosses and you combine them with our domestic grosses, you get the top 5 films worldwide. And at number 1 was Stray Kids, The Dominate Experience. So KPop, the number 1 theatrical attraction in the world at $19.17 million. Zootopia 2 comes in second place with another $16.8 million. That means it breaches the $1.8 billion barrier. The Housemaid comes in third place at $16.4 million. It's now over $350 million worldwide. Avatar Fire and Ash comes in fourth place at $15.6 million. It's now over $1.4 billion worldwide. And Send Help drops 43.6% worldwide from its opening at $15.3 million. It's now at over $50 million worldwide. Returning back to the domestic box office, let's take a look now at some of our specialty charts, and we will start with the per theater averages from this past weekend. At number 1 was Pillion, which opened in 4 theaters, starring Alexander Skarsgård and Harry Melling. This is being distributed by A24. It will, I assume, expand in the weeks ahead, but it brought in nearly $60,000 per theater in just 4 theaters. Sirat, which is nominated for 2 Academy Awards, one for Best Sound and one for Best International Feature. It is Spain's entry in the Oscars this year. Brought in $34,487 per theater in 4 theaters. Bendito Corazon, which is a film from Mexico, a religiously themed film, comes in at $20,000 per theater in 23 theaters. Kokuho, which is an Academy Award nominee for makeup and hairstyling. I've heard very good things about this movie. Brought in over $15,000 per theater in 3 theaters. And in 5th place was Aida the Movie, playing in 27 theaters, bringing in almost $9,000. This is a feature film spin-off of a show in Spain that was at one point the most popular show in the country. So even the European market getting in on the movie adaptations of popular TV shows. And I know that we're early in the year, but I wanted to look at the top per theater averages so far in 2026, because these top 2, The Moment and Pillion, would have been in 2025 2 of the top 5 best per theater opening numbers of the year. So it's good to start tracking these things early. The Moment, of course, is leading the way with over $100,000 last weekend in just 4 theaters. Then we have Pillion with $60,000, also in 4 theaters. Sirat, with its number, comes in 3rd place. All That's Left of You, back from the weekend of January 9th in 2 theaters with $25,000 per theater, comes in 4th place. And then No Other Choice, back on the first weekend of the year, January 2nd, playing in 45 theaters, comes in 5th place at $22,000 per theater. These were the top 5 films in limited release this past weekend, which I define as 1,000 theaters or fewer. At number 1 was The Moment, the Charlie XCX faux documentary, playing in 581 theaters. It brought in almost $1.7 million. Bendito Corazon comes in 2nd place with $469,000 in 23 theaters. Back to the Past brought in $329,000 in 124 theaters. Pillion brought in $241,000 in 4 theaters, and Aida the Movie comes in 5th place with $240,000 total in 27 theaters. These are the 2026 annual domestic box office numbers. This is for films released in 2026. And we have a new number 1. Send Help is now the highest grossing film of the year domestically at $34.8 million. Iron Lung, though, is close behind at $31.5 million. It's up 3 spots from last week at number 2. Primate drops down to number 3 at $25.5 million. 28 years later, The Bone Temple drops down to number 4 at $24.7 million. And Mercy drops down to number 5. Greenland 2 Migration is at number 6, followed by Melania at number 7. Shelter moves up 1 spot to number 8. Solo Mio enters the top 10 at number 9. And The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring re-release drops down to number 10 with $5.9 million. Return to Silent Hill drops off the list altogether. These are the highest grossing films of the year if you judge it by all tickets sold since January 1st. So even movies that were released in 2025. And Avatar Fire and Ash is the highest grossing film when you consider all movies in 2026 at $141.1 million, followed by Zootopia 2 at $76.6 million, The Housemaid at $67.3 million, Marty Supreme in 4th place with $54.2 million. Send Help enters the chart at number 5 at $34.8 million, followed by Anaconda at number 6. Iron Lung is at number 7. Primate is at number 8. 28 years later, The Bone Temple's at number 9. The SpongeBob Movie, Search for SquarePants, is at number 10. And Song Sung Blue and David, both out of the 2026 annual domestic top 10. So those are all the numbers I have for you from the box office. Before we go, I wanted to take a quick look at the world of streaming, and we will start with the latest numbers from Netflix. These cover the week of January 26th to February 1st. And at number 1 was the return of Bridgerton, which put up a big number. This is the first part of its 4th season. It brought in 39.72 million views total, easily the number 1 most watched program of the week on Netflix. The Rip drops down to second place with 14.6 million views, followed by His and Hers at 11 million views. Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart comes in 4th place at 9.56 million views. Durandar, which was a big international box office hit from India, debuts in 5th place with 7.6 million views. Then we have K-Pop Demon Hunters still hanging around at number 6 at 6.84 million views. Finding Her Edge Season 1 debuts on the charts at number 7 with 6.68 million views. This is a Canadian series about figure skaters. The Big Fake comes in at number 8 with 6.62 million views. This is an Italian movie about a forger back in the 1970s. Max, which was a pretty early post-COVID era film starring, I believe, Channing Tatum and a dog, comes in 9th place at 6.16 million views. And Skyscraper Live had some holdover viewers after it was broadcast live on Netflix. It still brought in 5.38 million views. And let's debut our tracking chart for the most watched programs on Netflix in 2026. This is since January 5th. Which is the first full week of the new year, and this is based just off of reported views. The Rip comes in at number 1 with almost 100 million views on Netflix so far. His and Hers is in second place at 77.58 million views. People We Meet on Vacation, the Netflix original movie, comes in third place with over 50 million views. Bridgerton Season 4 debuts at number 4 with its 39.72 million views. Then we have K-Pop Demon Hunters, a holdover from 2025 at 28.67 million views. Still one of the 5 most watched programs of the year so far. Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart's at number 6. Runaway is at number 7. The Agatha Christie series Seven Dials is at number 8. Stranger Things Season 5, another holdover from 2025, is at number 9 at 20.81 million views. And Can This Love Be Translated, which is a Netflix original series from South Korea, comes in at number 10 with 17.28 million total views. Let's take a look now at the latest numbers from Nielsen. Now, these numbers are delayed by about a month, and they also are domestic numbers only. They are not global like the Netflix numbers we just looked at. These are the numbers for January 5th through the 11th, 2026, so the first full week of the year. Looking at the most watched streaming movies for that week, at number 1 was the Netflix original People We Meet on Vacation with 9.15 million hours watched. Then we had another Netflix film, Evil Influencer, at 5.16 million hours watched. And K-Pop Demon Hunters rebounding back up to number 3 in the absence of a lot of seasonal stuff or new stuff at 4.73 million hours watched. Tron Ares debuts on the chart at number 4 with 4.3 million hours watched with its debut on Disney+. The Bad Guys hits the charts again at number 5 with just over 4 million hours watched. Man on Fire is at number 6. Zootopia is at number 7. One Battle After Another is at number 8. Wake Up Dead Man's at number 9. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse rounds out the top 10 with 2.9 million hours watched. These were the most watched streaming shows for January 5th through the 11th. We still have some carryover viewership for Stranger Things with 53.35 million hours watched. That would normally be a huge number, but by Stranger Things standards, it's just the rebound of viewership beginning to tail off after the series ended. Landman is in second place at 23.75 million hours watched. Then we have His and Hers debuting at number 3 with 23.1 million hours watched. Runaway is at number 4. Bluey's at number 5. The Closers at number 6. At number 7 is The Pit with 15.65 million hours watched. This was the week that the first episode of its currently running second season debuted. Fallout's at number 8. 11/22/63 on Netflix is at number 9 with 14.13 million hours watched. Either Netflix made a decision to strategically market this thing or somebody paid for that privilege, because I even watched this series when it popped up because I'd read the book years before and many other people did as well. And then rounding out the top 10 is the series Found at 14.1 million hours watched. And these are the top Nielsen shows when you look at it by watch time per available episode. So you take the total number of hours watched, divide it by the number of episodes you can watch. That's how you get to this number. His and Hers, with its 6 episodes, leads the way with 3.85 million hours per episode, followed by Runaway at 2.12 million hours per episode. 11/22/63 comes in third place. And this, remember, this series came out, I think, over 10 years ago at 1.57 million hours watched per episode. Stranger Things comes in 4th place, followed by Landman and Fallout. They're all over 1 million hours per episode. The Pit gets close at 978,000 hours per episode. Then we have the return of Beast Games at about 500,000 hours per episode. Percy Jackson and the Olympians is at number 9, and Found also rounds out this top 10 at just over 400,000 hours per episode. And those are all the numbers I have for you this week. Before we go, though, I just wanted to flag some things that you might be interested in for the next several days, both on streaming and in theaters. First of all, tomorrow, Cross Season 2, the second season of Amazon Prime Video's Alex Cross series, makes its debut, and Love is Blind Season 10 makes its debut on Netflix. Then on Thursday, Predator Badlands will be hitting Hulu, so if you missed it in theaters, you can watch it on streaming starting on Thursday. Then on Friday, as I mentioned earlier, Wuthering Heights looks to be the big release of the weekend. Then we have the animated film Goat, which was produced by Stephen Curry. It also comes from Sony Animation, so the folks that brought you KPop Demon Hunters and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the animation studio at least. So I think that could do some decent numbers this upcoming weekend. Crime 101, starring Chris Hemsworth, also hits theaters this weekend, as well as Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, starring Sam Rockwell. I've heard some good things about this movie from the festival circuit, especially from, I believe it played Fantastic Fest, and I think it did very well there. Cold Storage, starring Liam Neeson and Joe Keery, will also be hitting theaters this weekend. So plenty of options if you were watching the Super Bowl this past weekend and want to see a movie this weekend. Also opening in a smaller number of theaters, but still a lot around the country, is Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. So you can check that out if you're so inclined. And making its debut on Apple TV Plus this upcoming weekend is Eternity, which did pretty well for its size back at the end of 2025. I actually enjoyed this movie, and if you missed it in theaters, you can watch it on Apple TV this upcoming weekend. And that's everything I've got for you on this week's Charts with Dan, but be sure to stay tuned to the channel. I'm going to have my live show tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to have a review of Wuthering Heights, probably on Friday morning. I may even try to sneak in Send Help, because even though it's been out for a couple of weekends now, there are still a lot of people saying that they want to hear my thoughts on the movie. If you do, let me know down in the comments below. It'll help me decide where I spend my time. Plus, you never know what's going to pop up. We are deep into awards season. Lots of stuff going on. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you to Mando and to AG1 for sponsoring this video. And of course, thanks for spending so much of your day listening to me shout numbers at you as always. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.